All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanan. In this video, we're going to talk about something that Jose Benavidez, the father of David Benavidez, had to say about Canelo Alvarez and the fact that Canelo Alvarez looks like he's wearing down and will be very, very beatable soon by guys that you may not think have a chance to beat him. I'm also going to, in this video, show you examples through boxing history where that is the case. So don't shoot the messenger. Watch the video to the end. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Canelo Alvarez is almost universally recognized as the #1 fighter in boxing right now. He is most certainly the #1 big money fighter in boxing right now. Many people believe that he's the best fighter in boxing right now and that he is absolutely undefeatable. That's what I have been hearing ever since he beat Caleb Plant in the last fight and maybe a little bit before that. Jose Benavidez, though, who is the father of David Benavidez, the former WBC 168-pound champion, actually shared some information and gave his viewpoint, and I thought it was I thought that it was an excellent point and something that bears out from what I have noticed and what I've seen throughout my time watching boxing, which is essentially that all good things come to an end. And, you know, Canelo Alvarez is at a point in his career typically where guys start going downhill. Now, where is Canelo Alvarez in his career? He is a guy that I do believe he's got somewhere around 60 fights. He's been fighting as a professional for over 15 years. He has been in a bunch of different championship fights. And on top of it, he's somebody that is very dedicated to the game and trains on an ongoing basis, right? Pretty much as soon as he gets done training, gets done fighting, may take a little bit of time, but he's back in training camp. And over time, and this is what Jose Benavidez said, over time, your body stops reacting the way it used to, and your fight age is going to start showing. Now, that's what he's saying when he is putting up the argument that David Benavidez, and I would say also guys like Jermall, Charlo, and other people around that weight class will have Canelo Alvarez will be vulnerable to those guys. If he is not vulnerable right now, he will be vulnerable very, very soon. Now, one of the observations that Jose Benavidez made is something that I noticed in the fight against Caleb's Plant, but that, you know, when you say it, a whole lot of people jump on your chest when you say it. But I was like, look, man, Canelo Alvarez, you know, Caleb Plant put up a good fight with Canelo Alvarez for several rounds. Eventually, you know, the body shots and the experience and all that and the talent level of Canelo Alvarez took over, and he wound up stopping Caleb Plant. But early on in the fight, Caleb Plant was having success against Canelo Alvarez, right? Now, the thing that brings this to mind for me is what, you know, another guy that used to be the best fighter in boxing. Nobody thought that he could lose. He was doing amazing things. He was definitely the pound for pound, #1 pound for pound fighter in boxing. He had everything going for him except for the fact that, you know, he wasn't the biggest money maker necessarily in boxing, and that is Roy Jones Jr. If you had looked at Roy Jones Jr.'s career when he was at 154 for a little bit of time, he moved up to 160 pounds, beat Bernard Hopkins at 160 pounds. I do believe he beat James Toney at 168 pounds. He was beating everybody in boxing, everybody that he fought in boxing, you know, by leaps and bounds, just destroying the guys. He was so dominant that he would actually, you know, do these gimmicks where he would go play basketball, you know, tape himself playing a semi-pro basketball game before he had a fight that night, you know, pretty much just showing how much better than he was than everybody around him. After that, he went all the way up to heavyweight, right? So this is a guy that was the best fighter from 154 pounds, goes all the way up to do something that nobody that I know of that has been that small, except for maybe Sam Langford in the early 1900s, was able to do, which is go out there and beat a heavyweight. Now, he beat John Ruiz. John Ruiz was not, I don't think John Ruiz is the best heavyweight in the world. But John Ruiz definitely had a belt, and Roy Jones Jr. beats him, right? Top of the world. And I remember it because I was there ringside. Well, I was not ringside. I was in the arena for the fight. And after the fight, during the press conference, Antonio Tarver is at the press conference, and he starts pressing Roy Jones Jr. for a fight. Everybody blew off Antonio Tarver, because Antonio Tarver was supposed to be a mandatory, but he had lost a fight. I can't remember the name of the guy who he lost a fight to, but he lost a fight, and so therefore he was no longer the mandatory to fight Roy Jones Jr. So Roy Jones Jr. beat the guy that beat James Toney, goes up to heavyweight, wins a heavyweight title, and there Antonio Tarver is talking all kind of smack about what he's going to do, and everybody blew him off. Everybody was like, how could you talk? This is a mismatched fight. He moves all the way. This is Roy Jones Jr. He's one of the greatest fighters ever to fight, right? What happens when he fights Antonio Tarver? The first time, a lot of people think he lost the fight. In the second fight, Antonio Tarver knocks him out. Now, why would that happen to Roy Jones Jr.? Did he get that much less talented, or was he never not what people said that he was? That's not my belief. I believe at a certain point in time, your body just says that's it. You get to operate. You can operate at a very, very high level for a certain amount of time, and just because you're beating all these people that people and people don't give other people a chance does not mean that you're not going to hit that wall. And that's what Jose Benavidez is saying about Canelo relative to David Benavidez, and what I'm saying relative to several of those guys a few of those guys that are around the same size as Canelo in Demetrius Andrade and Jermall Charlo. Canelo Alvarez can go to the top of the world, but at a certain point in time, man, your body is going to start slowing down. That's what I think I started seeing actually several fights ago with Canelo. What I think I saw against Caleb Plant. And if he gets in there in the ring with David Benavidez, a young 24-year-old guy, or even Jermall Charlo, a guy that is around the same age as him but does not have nearly as long a career as Canelo Alvarez, that age can catch up to you, man. And I'm telling you, people that act like, that want to talk about fights not being made because they know that this guy is going to win this fight, or that this guy is going to win that fight, man, that's not how it works, man. And it's definitely not how it works when you get up into your 15th, 16th, 17th year of professional fighting. Like, people talk about how much Canelo Alvarez, achieved when he's 24, how much he's achieved by the time he's, 30 years old. But they forget that he has been training professionally and having professional training camps since the guy was 15 years old. So, now I'm not going to tell you that I know for sure that David Benavidez is going to be Canelo, or Jermall Charlo is going to be Canelo, or Demetrius Andrade is going to be Canelo. But I will tell you that I do believe that those guys have chances to be Canelo Alvarez because they're all very, very good fighters. And at a certain point in time, man, Canelo Alvarez is that wear and tear that he has on his body is going to affect him to the degree where somebody who may not have necessarily the experience that he has, or even the talent that he has, is going to be able to beat him. So I wouldn't be so quick to brush off what Jose Benavidez has, or when Jermall Charlo says, man, this dude is getting tired, I think I can beat Canelo, or Demetrius Andrade when he goes to a Canelo Alvarez press conference. As far as how much money these guys are bringing to the fights and bringing to the equation, hey, look, that is not going to change it's not going to change quickly. However, again, where people get that old, when they get to the peak of their career, and they've been in boxing for 16, 17 years, just like what happened to Manny Pacquiao when he fought Yordenis Ugas. Just a couple years before that, maybe 2 years before that, that might not have happened. But he got there. And I'm telling you, it's not just the chronological age, just like how many years you've been alive, but how much wear and tear you've had on your body. And Canelo has been fighting at a very high level from a very young age, and training consistently and all that. And hey, man, it's not just very likely that it'll happen. It definitely will happen. And that's why, people talk about why Andre Ward retired so early, man. Andre Ward was somebody who was very, very disciplined to this, very devoted to the sport, very disciplined. And, it was the wear and tear that he had, keeping his body in shape, that over time, man, he was just like, look, I can't keep it up. And I don't think Canelo Alvarez is going to be very far off from that, considering all the things that he's done in boxing. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.